At 4 in the morning, while my wife was being rushed into an emergency C-section, while my newborn daughter was fighting for every single breath in the NICU, my car was chained and booted outside the hospital entrance by the president of our HOA. She demanded $850 in cash, laughed at me when I begged and ordered a tow truck, as if my family's life meant nothing. What she didn't know was that I wasn't just any desperate husband that morning, I was the governor of the state. My name is Michael Chin. And before you think being governor gives you some kind of shield, let me tell you at that moment it meant absolutely nothing. I was just a terrified husband watching the woman I love, pale and trembling, clutching her belly, whispering through clenched teeth, "Michael, something's wrong." Sarah wasn't due for another month. Her contractions came fast, brutal. I grabbed the hospital bag with shaking hands, half dragging her to the car. Every red light felt like a lifetime. By the time we pulled into St. Mary's Hospital, I didn't care where I parked, I just needed to get her inside. I swung into the closest space right by the ER entrance. It was clearly marked for emergency vehicles, but Sarah could barely stand. Nurses rushed out with a wheelchair, wheeled her in as I stumbled behind. I thought I had a second to breathe. I thought wrong. "Excuse me." The voice was sharp, slicing through the morning air. I turned, and there she was. A woman in her late 50s, face pinched with permanent anger, wearing a bright yellow vest like it was a badge of honor. On her chest, Oakwood HOA Parking Enforcement. In her hand, a clipboard she clutched like a weapon. "You can't park there," she snapped. "My wife's in labor," I said, moving toward the door. "I'll move it once she's settled." "No, you'll move it now," she barked, planting herself in my path. "This is an emergency zone. Can't you read?" Through the glass doors, I could see Sarah being wheeled away, disappearing down a hallway. My chest felt like it was collapsing. "Please," I begged, "my wife is in severe pain. She might—" "I don't care about your excuses," she cut me off. Her name tag read, Patricia Morrison, HOA President. She pulled out her phone with a cruel little smile. "I'm calling the tow truck right now, and I'm putting a boot on your vehicle." I blinked, not even processing. A boot. Here at a hospital. "Rules are rules," she said, already dialing. "Jerry, it's Patricia. I've got another entitled jerk for you." Inside, a doctor was calling my name. I had no choice. I ran inside, leaving her and her clipboard smirk behind. The next hour was the longest of my life. I held Sarah's hand in the operating room while they cut her open, while doctors moved frantically. Her eyes were wide with terror, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Michael, is the baby going to be okay?" I told her yes, even though I had no idea. Finally, I heard it, a weak, fragile cry. Our daughter Emma. She was tiny, struggling, and within seconds the pediatric team whisked her away. "Her lungs aren't fully developed," the neonatologist said gravely. "The next 48 hours are critical." Critical. The word echoed in my head. I staggered out of recovery, thinking I'd grab my phone to call our families. But when I reached the parking lot, I froze. There it was. My car. Shackled by a bright yellow boot, a $500 ticket slapped on the windshield. And Patricia Morrison sitting in her own car, waiting like a spider at the center of her web. She got out when she saw me. "Too late now," she said smugly. "That'll be $500 for the fine, $200 for the boot, and $150 for the tow. Cash only." "My daughter is in the NICU," I said, barely breathing. "I just need my phone, please." "Not my problem," she said flatly. "No cash, no car. Tow truck's already on the way." And sure enough, Jerry rolled up in a battered truck, hooked chains to my car like it was just another payday. "How am I supposed to get home?" "My baby's car seat is in there," I shouted. Patricia's response. "There's a taxi stand 2 blocks away. Have a nice day, Mr. Chin. Welcome to parenthood." She drove off, leaving me standing in the freezing air, stripped of my car, my phone, everything. While upstairs, my newborn daughter fought for her life. That night, I borrowed a nurse's phone to call my family. One kind nurse even slipped me $100 from her own pocket. "Take care of your wife and baby," she whispered. Her compassion cut even deeper against Patricia's cruelty. The following days were hell. Emma was tiny, covered in wires, every breath a battle. Sarah cried when she saw her. "She's so small," she sobbed. "We could only touch her through the incubator holes." When Emma wrapped her hand around Sarah's finger, we both broke down. Meanwhile, Patricia had my car locked in impound, demanding her money. My father ended up paying the $850 just to get it back. And there was a moment sitting alone in the chapel that I asked myself if this was my fault. If I had just followed the damn sign, maybe none of this would have happened. Maybe Patricia was right, and I really was entitled. The thought ate me alive. Then Rebecca, my chief of staff, walked in with a folder. "Governor, you need to see this." Inside were documents that made my blood boil. The HOA contract with St. Mary's had expired 6 months earlier. Patricia had no authority to boot or tow anyone. She was running an illegal shakedown, pocketing the money herself. And it wasn't just me. There were dozens of complaints parents filed while rushing their sick kids inside a man whose wife had a heart attack. Even an ambulance threatened with a ticket. Patricia had been preying on families at their weakest moments for years. The reporter showed up on day 4. "Governor Chin, is it true you were extorted in the hospital parking lot while your wife was in labor?" The story exploded. Patricia tried to spin it, claiming I'd pulled rank to dodge a ticket. But victim after victim came forward. Jennifer Martinez, whose 5-year-old's asthma attack turned into a nightmare because Patricia had her car towed. David Thompson, who missed his father's final moments because his car was booted. The pattern was undeniable: cruelty, greed, power abuse. On day 5, Emma's infection worsened. Doctors couldn't promise she'd make it through the night. I begged God to spare her, to take me instead. Sitting there staring at my tiny girl gasping for breath, I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. It wasn't even just about Emma. It was about every family Patricia had crushed under her petty empire. Emma survived that night. Against the odds, she fought back. And while she was healing, Patricia's world came crashing down. Investigators found she'd skimmed over $400,000 in illegal fines. Cameras caught her being led out of her house in handcuffs, face twisted with humiliation. She was charged with extortion, fraud, and abuse of power. 15 years in prison, stripped of her title, her money, her false authority. The HOA board cut ties, immediately refunded every cent they could. And for once, Patricia had no clipboard to hide behind, no smug smile. Just a broken woman who finally faced justice. I didn't celebrate. I didn't cheer. I stood outside the courthouse watching her shoved into the back of a cruiser, and all I could think was how close she came to keeping me from my wife and child when they needed me most. She thought rules made her powerful. She thought cruelty made her strong. But in the end, it destroyed her. And if you take anything from my story, let it be this: power without compassion is nothing.